I don't have any paper. Does someone have paper Poogie could have? Or just use your journal, I guess, for now. Okay, guys, let's listen up, take notes, and be polite.
Do you know that one child dies every 5 seconds from hunger-related causes? Because the hunger problem is so serious, the United Nations set goals for it, which is reducing the hunger population. According to this hunger net, the hunger population is mainly in Africa and in Egypt. Food hunger, poverty. In many developing countries, there are a lot of poor people that do not have enough money or do not have any money at all to support themselves or their families. That means they can't buy food, water, or have a nice home. And in some countries, like there are natural disasters that can cause hunger. For example, storms, droughts, rainstorms, winds, floods. That also has an effect of world hunger. Here are some facts for hunger. 842 million people in the world do not have enough to eat. And this number has fallen by 17% since 1990. And another fact, if women farmers had the same access to resources as men, the number of hungry in the world could be reduced by up to 150 million. It means like it's just woman and men's is still like different, and it's unfair for women. And another fact, 80% of the world's young children live in just 20 countries. It shows that gap between the rich and the poor is big. And 66 million primary school age children attend class hungry across the developing world, with 23 million in Africa alone. It shows that Africa is a poor country. Many poor countries is in Africa. Okay, like a fact, the world produced enough to feed the entire global population of 7 billion people, and yet 1 person in 8 on the planet goes to bed hungry each night. In some countries, 1 child in 3 is underweight. Well, looking at this like food hunger issue, it really reminds you that people in the world are starving, and sometimes you can forget about this because you're not thinking, because you're kind of in your perfect world. Maybe it's not perfect, but compared to them it is. And we say that the LES cafeteria food is bad, but in fact it's food. It's better than starving compared to these children. But sometimes we can take for granted and forgetting about these poor children and men and women that are starving every day. What is the history? 2 scientists named Boyer and Cohen discovered how to produce genetic modified foods. In 1973, Cohen and Boyer invented DNA clothing. DNA clothing is taking a piece of DNA and making a copy of that. And Boyer had an invention, or was doing an experiment, and he had an enzyme, and by using this enzyme, trying to separate different strands of DNA and recombining it with another enzyme. And the first plant that was transmitted genetically was the tobacco plant. And how does it work? Mainly, an organism, it has DNA, and that DNA is subtracted and added and modified to a new organism. First thing to do is to find an organism that you want to have that DNA, that specific DNA, and abstract it. And before adding it to the new DNA, is it can be modified so it can be touched up a little. Then it's put into that organism that you want to have the DNA. And if it's a plant, it's grown, and then you have your genetic modified product. You can see here in this picture.
The organisms that their DNA are changed is called genetic modified organisms. In Los Angeles, the jellyfish DNA, which can make blood, animal growth like this, is transferred into pigs, 25 pigs, and 10 of them successfully grow in dark. The idea of genetic modified seeds is similar to the experiment of pigs. Because of genetic modified seeds, the amount of rice harvest in Africa was the highest over the last decade.
And golden rice. Rice has been around in Asia for many, many years. Farmers have been growing rice for many, many years. Rice can be grown in tropical and subtropical places around the world. India, China, and Southeast are one of the main producers of rice in the world. There is not a lot of iron or vitamin A in rice, and not having enough vitamin A in your body can influence your vision. You can have your vision decreases, and in worst cases, you can go blind. And in Zurich and Freiburg, they discovered how to add in these iron and vitamin A into rice, and it got its name golden rice because when the transmitted of the DNA into the rice, it was a golden color.
What are some advantages for genetic modified seeds? Because it can prevent the insects on their own. The farmer do not need to spray the pesticide on them. And genetic modified seeds can grow in difficult environments, such as grow in sand, grow in salty land, or land with not enough water for normal seeds. And another benefit for genetic modified seeds is that they can grow faster than the normal seeds. And the final rice harvest will be higher than the normal seeds, which can be the key to solving the world hunger. And the genetic modified seeds become more tasty and have different kind of flavor.
What are some disadvantages? It can be harmful for some creatures. For example, if it grows in a climate that not really a lot of vegetation grow, and the animal comes and eat it, because that's the only thing they see, that can harm them. And it can be, some scientists say that it can be a health problem for us humans. And you can't have seeds from genetic modified foods or plants.
Some examples for genetic modified foods: cotton, rice, soybeans, sugar beets, papaya, and bananas, potatoes, corn, tomatoes, peas. It's important, very important.
And we have a little video. Oh. Okay.
You should be able to highlight that and if you right click or control click, you should let it open that link. Yeah, okay. I'll click on the link.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, that's just an ad. Oh.
In the last several years, we've seen some strange genetically modified organisms. Pigs that glow in the dark, chickens that grow without feathers, and even goats that produce spider silk proteins. But what really gets people riled up are genetically modified foods. The prospect of eating somebody's science project turns the stomach of those who aspire to eat so-called whole or natural foods. But what exactly does genetically modified mean anyways? And how are those foods created? To answer these questions, we need to go back in time about 10,000 years. That's when people first started domesticating animals and cultivating plants for food. By picking organisms with desirable traits and mating them together over and over again, people were able to mold species to meet their dietary needs. The classic example is corn, which started out as a tropical grass called teosinte, with small, nearly inedible kernels. Over thousands of years, ancient farmers in Mexico transformed the grass into the delicious, starchy treat we like to eat today. We now know those ancient farmers were manipulating the DNA of the teosinte plant. As few as 5 changes to its genome, the long strands of DNA that encode for proteins, create the dramatic differences we see between teosinte and corn. Scientists call this process artificial selection, and it's made all kinds of unappetizing plants edible, from wheat to rice to almonds and bananas.
Should we stop it?
You all got that?
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions?